Hello everybody and welcome to Vigilant Citizen. My name is Josh. The sun is hanging low in the sky. You can tell it's October. Winter is just around the corner. I hate it. I miss summer already. Everything, it's just darker. And I just don't like it. But it does remind me of those days back when I was a kid. My little brother and I refusing to admit that summer was over and still playing basketball over in the park and just, like I said, refusing to accept that, hey, it's starting to get cold. You can't really play outside anymore. Thankfully, it's still pretty warm out here. So I don't know how much longer I'm gonna do or be able to do this outside. Thankfully, I'm working on my office inside. I had to rewire. I didn't do the rewiring of the room. I hired professionals to do that part, but I did cut out a lot of the drywall so that they could get in there and rewire it. And then my old man actually came over and helped me cut all the drywall, go buy all the stuff that we needed, cut some of the drywall to get it as close as possible, and then mudded it and sprayed some texture on it. It's probably not going to match 100%, but I'm not too picky as long as it looks close enough. Went and got some paint this morning. I actually went and caulked some of the baseboards had some gaps, so I went and caulked that today. And the one tube of caulk that I had, you can't see it anymore, but it exploded, I guess. I've had it for a while, so it was probably just sitting in the garage and got too cold or too hot or something, and just, got a split in it, so the caulk went all over the place. And but thankfully I was able to get those gaps caulked up, so tomorrow I should be able to paint, get into my new office, and then we'll see. The lighting's probably going to be crap in there because it's in the basement, so I got to figure that out too. This natural lighting has been working out for me, so we'll see how it goes. I'll get it working. I'll use it for work. I'll work from home a couple days and see how poorly backlit I am and see what that looks like. So until the weather stops holding up, though, I'll just stay out here because it's just nicer, and it's, honestly, it's just more fun. So anyway, to the topic at hand, today's drink of choice is this orange mango sparkling ice water because that's what real men drink. No, I like the carbonation, so don't give me crap about that. But today I wanted to do a video that was kind of complimentary to the You Have Influence video that I did earlier this year. I saw a couple videos on YouTube this morning that I found interesting and were sort of a contrast to that video that I posted a while ago. In these videos, they were both experiments on how peer pressure affects human behavior. And the first one I saw was this lady walks into, I say lady, but she looks like she's in her early 20s or something. She walks in to what she thinks is an eye doctor office, and they take her name, and she goes and sits down with all of the other people who are waiting for their turn. Well, every single chair is filled up in there, and she sits down in the only available one. And I don't know how long it is, every 5-10 minutes, something like that, you hear a beeping sound or a bell chime or something like that. Excuse me. And as soon as everybody in the room hears that sound, all of these other people are willing participants in this experiment. They all stand up. And then they don't do it all at once. It's not mechanical. They just kind of stand up. One of them stretches, and then the others kind of stand up. And it seems a little informal, and certainly not. It gives the appearance of not being scripted. So she sees it, and she has a confused look on her face. Well, it happens another time, and she looks a little confused again, and you can tell she's thinking about standing up. Well, on the third one, it only took 3 times. She sees everybody else stand up, and so she stands up with them. And you can tell she's uncomfortable doing it. Well, the next part of the experiment kicks in as the chime keeps ringing, and she keeps standing up with everybody else, but they start getting their names called to go into the back of the office for their eye appointment, until she's the only one left in the room. And the chime goes off again, and she stands up. There's nobody else in there. She stands up. And then I believe if I remember this correctly, more unwitting participants of the experiment show up, and they sit down. And one guy just kind of looks at her like she stands up when the chime goes off, and he says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Well, everybody else is doing it, so I thought it was something you're supposed to." You enjoying yourself back there, Kepler? I'd rather he do that than what he did in one of my previous videos. But she stands up and the other guy joins her. And before you know it, more people filter in, and she's getting them all to stand up with at the sound of the chime, including one guy who clearly looks like he's not into it and he doesn't want to do it, and he stands up too. And I thought that was just a fascinating experiment, right? I think they asked her later what was going through your head, and she said, well, it just seemed like that's what needed to be done. Everybody else was doing it, so I was confused, but I went along with it. So I thought it was fascinating that she was able to get everybody else who came in later to stand up as well. Along those lines, it kind of goes with the Ash conformity experiment, which I'll post the links to both of these videos in the description so you can go check them out. They're not very long. This is an older video, I think it seems like from the 70s, maybe early 80s, in which an individual comes in and he's told that he's going to be participating in an experiment to see if they can gauge the height of lines in comparison to other ones. So they're shown a placard that has a line like this, and then 3 other ones where one of them is clearly the same height, right? And it goes down, the facilitator goes down the line of all the participants who are all part of the experiment, just like the previous one, and they all give the right answer for the first couple. And then he shows one where they clearly give the wrong answer. And then the individual who they're actually experimenting upon, the poor unwitting test subject, looks confused, and you could tell that he doesn't want to say the wrong answer, but he goes ahead along with it anyway. He gives them the wrong answer. And it goes on. It tries different variations of this experiment. Another one in which the individual is told, well, hey, since you're late, you know, they set it up so where he showed up late. Since you're late, you have to write your answers on this piece of paper. And they were more likely to say the right thing when they were anonymous, right? When they didn't have to face the scrutiny of their peers. Same thing if one of the... Jarvis, buddy, settle. Same thing if one of the participants gave the right answer down the line, then they were more likely to give the right answer too. There was even one clip where the guy kind of looks at the other guy who got it right and was like, yeah, me and you, we're on the same thing here. So the whole point of this that I wanted to share this with you is because previously I said you have influence, and this shows an example of when influence can be used in a it's not malicious, but it can be used to hijack somebody into doing something wrong, or to just to not believe what their eyes are telling them and go with the group think and go with what the group is saying instead of what they think is actually true. So the opposite of this, right? So that's your part, that's your influence. And the other side of this that I wanted to get into is that not everybody's a leader, not everybody has as much influence as others for various reasons, and that's okay. We're not all born leaders, and we're not all born we're all born followers to some extent. Not everybody's 100% a leader across the board. So when you're a follower and you're clearly not leading a group, my advice to you is to be very careful about who you're following and get more comfortable with asking questions about why are we as a group doing this? Who is leading this group, and where are we trying to go, and why are we doing this? All too often we find ourselves caught up with what the group is doing, and all too often, what the group is doing is perfectly fine. It's okay. You go into Costco or one of those giant, awful, evil places like that, or Sam's Club. There's a very distinct culture, and everybody's going to the right. They go counterclockwise or whatever around the whole store, and that helps make things a little more smooth and logistically operational, so you can get in and get your stuff and get out, right? So in some cases, or in a lot of cases, doing what the group does is perfectly rational, perfectly reasonable, and perfectly fine, because there's a reason the mainstream exists. We've done things for centuries, for millennia, because they work and they ensure our survival. But we've seen very clear cases in history, and we're witnessing some today, in which people are not believing what their eyes are telling them. Don't believe your deceiving eyes, right? And they're going along with what experts say and with what leaders say, who are clearly not looking out for their best, and they don't have their constituents' or their followers' welfare at the top of their priorities. And so people are following these people, doing things that are actively hurting themselves, sabotaging their own health, and not doing things that help themselves and their family, all because they're seeing others do it and not questioning it. So now is the time to question why. Why is the group doing this? Why are people doing this? Is this the right thing to do? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve? And is what we're doing actually achieving that? I think in a lot of cases today on large scale levels, global levels, and national levels, the answer is typically no. Sorry, I don't think no is an appropriate answer to those questions, but you get what I'm saying, that what we're doing does not reach those goals, right? Maybe on more small scale levels in your city, or I'd say your school board, but clearly that's not going well these days either. It depends on what school and maybe what state you're in. But it's important to ask, why are we doing this, and push back if you see something that's very clearly wrong, despite how many people might be against you, because they have been influenced by powers. Jarvis, buddy. Sorry. Hey! More squirrels, I think, probably. But they have been influenced by people, and in a way that they're not thinking it through. And you may reach some of them, you may not. Some of them are stuck. They're going to be stuck there for forever until the avenues of information and the leaders that they trust say something different. They're never coming out of it. But if you have that critical thinking, that ability to critically think, it is your responsibility and your duty to try to wake them up out of it. I'll admit that I've kind of given up recently, other than maybe these videos. In my circle of friends and family, I've tended to just kind of back off a little bit, because it's easier now, right? Because the amount of miscommunication and misinformation is so overwhelming. The number of people, the sheer number of people who are just doing the wrong thing because our leaders told them to, it's incalculable, to quote Michael Scott. It's incalculable. But that doesn't mean you should stop. Obviously, be careful in certain situations, because you might get outed as one of those extremists or whatever, and so you want to be careful for sure where you do it. But now is not the time to just follow the crowd. Now is the time to question the direction that all of our institutions and our groups are going down. So I wish you the best of luck with that. Something for you to think about. Think about how you can do it in your life. It doesn't have to be some big grand gesture. It doesn't have to be something where you change the minds of a million people all at once. But if you're having beers with a friend one night and they say something that's clearly out there, it doesn't need to be confrontational. All you have to do is just say, hey, that I read something different, I heard something different, here's what I heard, and maybe you can show me what you're seeing, and that kind of thing, so that you can start to have a conversation around it. Again, some people aren't open to that. They see it as an attack, and they will defend with their ego's attached to it, so they'll defend it viciously, and so you got to be careful about that. You got to identify those people and not engage, because you're not going to get anywhere with them. So I think I'll leave it at that. Some things for you to chew on, some things to think about. I'll make sure to post the links of those videos in the description below, so check those out. Let me know what you think of them, and let me know what you think of this topic. When's the right time to be questioning? What kind of questions can you ask to make sure that you're following the right group, and you're following it at the right times, and you're not getting swept up in something that will inflict harm on you and your friends and family. So as always, thanks for the conversation. Appreciate you. Do all the social media things if you want. Share this video, like it, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I don't get as much communication. Maybe I'm not talking about things that warrant too much discussion, right? This is all pretty common sense, but I feel the need to do this because I feel like common sense is really lacking today. So, all right. Thanks for your time. I'll see you next time.